Welcome back to Close Up. In Manchester, Mayor Jay Ruhe was close to running unopposed, but a last-minute filing set up an actual race for the corner office at City Hall in the Queen City. The lone challenger to Mayor Ruhe joins us this morning. Manchester School Board member Jessica Spillers is on Close Up. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So take us through a little bit about who you are and why you decided to run for mayor.
Yeah, so I'm a mom to 3 kids. I'm a social worker. I work full-time for the state as a SNAP program specialist. I am on like you mentioned, the school board. I currently represent Ward 8. And I decided to run, back when Jay Ruhe's budget cut $9.5 million from the school district. I felt this pull to do something more and to step up in some other way. So after a lot of conversations, this is where I landed, and now I'm running for mayor.
The education funding is a key component of your campaign here. You mentioned the budget cut of $9.5 million. I thought the budget for the schools went up by $3.5 million. Explain how you're sort of doing this attack, I guess.
Sure. So from my perspective, the school district proposed, and Jay Ruhe also supported back in February, a tax cap budget, which is basically the kind of budget that keeps the doors open and the lights on. So when he proposed the reduction, to me that's a cut because that's below what the school district asked for.
So that was the school district ask, and then this was sort of the basic negotiations, but the budget did go up, just not by as much as you wanted it to, essentially.
Correct. It didn't go up as much. I think ultimately we landed on an $8.5 million deficit from what we'd asked.
So take us through some of the things that would change. You know, if you're the mayor of Manchester, first off, on education, what would you be doing differently from Mayor Ruhe?
I think the biggest thing is fully funding the schools. In order to continue the progress and the programs that we have, we need to listen to the expertise of the folks within the school district and give them what they need to continue to improve the school district.
Take us through some of the other changes. What other things would you like to do differently from this current administration?
Sure. So I would really like to take some of the lessons that we've learned in the school district and apply them to City Hall. So for example, in terms of funding, the school district relies pretty heavily on some grants and awards in order to, have some of our programs like services that might help kids with mental health issues or et cetera while they're at school. And I would kind of like to take that mentality to City Hall and see if there are some ways that we can find grants and awards for some of the like capital improvements that we might need within the city. Additionally, the school district brought the transportation department in-house, and we saved $3.5 million. I think that's something we can also look at City Hall.
When Mayor Ruhe ran a couple of years ago, a big component of his campaign was change on the issues of public safety and homelessness. Would you be trying to change course from what he's doing on those two issues?
I want to expand. I want us to continue to support the Beach Street Engagement Center. As a social worker and somebody who has worked with this population, as a case manager, the focal point, having a focal point like the Beach Street Engagement Center is critical to being able to work with your clients and engage them on a one-to-one basis. It's wonderful because we're able to have medical professionals in there. We're able to have folks who can help with employment and basic services. So definitely we need to keep that, but we also need to expand into the realm of group living or transitional living and developing some of our own affordable housing. Rather than auctioning off all of these lots around the city, let's hold back and let's build on that so that we as a city can kind of control our own destiny a bit more.
I want to expand on the housing a little bit more, but on homelessness, if you see a homeless person who's starting to kind of set up on a sidewalk with a kind of living space, do you want the police to tell them to move along?
I think we need to provide that person with more resources and supports.
So yes or no, though? Do you want the police to ask them to move, or should they be allowed to stay there?
I think we should continue to help them so that they can get into some sort of transitional living.
So take us through this about, there's this big push to take the unused land and sort of move it into the housing realm. You would think the city should be building there to provide more housing for the unhoused right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so take us through how that would work.
So I think we would need to engage the Manchester Housing Department and look into the process for building on all of those unused lots and just determine, which are good for something like transitional housing, which might be better for something like low-income apartments. But at a city level, we have a little bit more control and say over what gets built on these lots rather than when a big developer wants to come in and build new apartments.
Would these be administered at the municipal level or by nonprofits?
I would have to look at that more when I'm in office, frankly.
What about housing beyond that? Obviously, the unhoused population is a big component of this, but the working class, they're having a hard time as well. How do you help them from the City Hall?
So I think we need to look at kind of those everyday issues, right? How can we help them in terms of bringing down their other costs like childcare or, potentially like our utility companies? What can we do in some of those other arenas to help bring down some of their costs for them?
Affordability is a huge component of this, and unfortunately, the way taxes work in New Hampshire, property taxes are a big bill for a lot of people. What do you do for your older fixed income Queen City residents, or again, the working class who are feeling like they're getting priced out of Manchester by property taxes?
Yeah, so one thing I would really like to look into, there's an example in Atlanta, is a senior housing trust fund, something for folks who are on fixed incomes where if their property taxes are increasing, the city can kind of help to offset some of those costs so that their fixed incomes aren't affected.
The YDC property is another sort of satellite issue here, and it could be a really huge opportunity in a number of different ways. As mayor, what would you want to see that property become as the state attempts to sell it? Potentially, who knows, a city, a developer, we'll see. But what would you like the city to advocate for on that front?
Well, I mean, that's a state property.
They want to unload it. It's in the state budget to sell it.
Yeah, so that, I mean, we don't have a lot of say over that. That's a state issue. But of course, I would like to see it turned into something that can be used for all of the people of Manchester, whether it's housing, parks, or recreation, something.
What about the growth of the biotech sector in the Mill Yard? What, as mayor, would you be doing to help that accelerate?
I would certainly look to continue to just grow that. I think what we can do best for those companies who are coming in is start to address some of the social issues that their employees are seeing and facing here in Manchester, things like our schools, things like housing, things like physical infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, traffic lights, things like that, in order to help them recruit and retain people. We need to make Manchester a place folks want to live and stay.
And so in this race, under normal circumstances, most people are getting in. Maybe a few months ago, you're a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of timing. How do you make up that deficit, if you will, in terms of time on the ground in this campaign with such a short amount of time, not just to the primary, obviously, which is going to be a one-on-one, but to November?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm in this thing. I'm not competing with Jay. I'm in it because I am running for mayor for Manchester. I want to see the city continue to thrive and to grow, and ultimately the voters in November will decide.
All right. Jessica Spillers, running for mayor of Manchester. We appreciate the time here on Close Up.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. And when we come back, our one-on-one interview with EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin and why he is bullish on a new natural gas pipeline to New England. Stay with us.